93 am Start.
My head was brown salivated. Salamander.
Hope for the best, I guess. Yeah. Oh, nice. Good. How's everyone else? You good?
Hello, good morning, Grüß Gott. Welcome to Innsbruck in Austria. It's the third race weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup, and it is the final race of 2023. It's beginning to feel, okay, it's really cloudy and foggy. It's not really feeling that Christmassy. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martin Haven, delighted to be joined for the first time this season by British slider Mika Moore. Mika, already a World Cup brakewoman and now starting to drive Monobob and Women's Bob. And Mika, this is a track that all of the athletes will know well.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic track. It's one of the tracks that is a little bit easier to drive, so that takes the scary element out of it. But what we will see is the start of the track being a little bit slower than the other tracks. Then we come to the Kreisel, a big swooping Kreisel, and then a little bit of chaos at the bottom of the track, which is always fun to watch, isn't it?
Should be good entertainment, but hopefully everybody gets out of it safely. The key areas here, keeping speed early on, and then exit a Kreisel down into the quicker lower part of the track.
Yeah, exactly that. As I said, it is a little bit of an easier track, which means that we've got to be good on it. We can't be taking the taps that we would at a track, so you'll lose a lot of speed, and that's where we'll see it. Especially this track, where you start and how you start is typically how you finish. So if we can get a good drive out of it then, and you can get an excellent start, like Cynthia is the start record holder here, then you can be in with a good shout for a medal.
Well, Lisa Bukvitz with the track record, as you said, Cynthia Appiah with the start record. It is a little bit humid and moist today. The track won't be as quick as it was in February of this year, the last time we were here. In our World Cup standings, we've had one race so far. There was no Monobob in Beijing, so this is actually race 2 of the series. It's a double race weekend, so we'll race Monobob again tomorrow. And our points leader is our surprise, let's say, rather than shock winner last weekend, Keisha Love of the USA. First ever, or second ever World Cup drive this weekend. First one last week was a victorious one. So it was a remarkable podium. Keisha Love, the winner. Melanie Hassler taking her first ever Monobob medal with the silver. And ditto for Andrea Greco, her first ever Monobob medal with the bronze. There's Alana Myers-Taylor. She was a World Cup rookie last week, which sounds like nonsense because she's won so many World Cup races, started so many World Cup races, but never in Monobob. When she was racing Monobob 2 years ago, it was the World Series, not the World Cup. As you saw, warming up there, our start record holder Cynthia Appiah of Canada. And she will go out 5th, but it will be Linda Wyszewski of Poland who heads us away. 19 sleds in the field and 3 debutants, again, including a name we know well, Katy Beil of Austria, first time racing in the World Cup Monobob series rather than the World Series Monobob. And then at the end of the run, we'll see Great Britain's Adele Nicol and Julia Slupeka of Poland making their driving debuts as well. Race 2 at the BMW IBSF Women's Monobob World Cup. Martin Haven and Mika Moore watching the action with you as we get ready to start a double race weekend here for Monobob in Innsbruck, Austria. First up, 24-year-old Linda Wyszewski of Poland, her second World Cup start in Monobob, finished in 14th in La Plagne. Well, it's going to be hard to see any mistakes in the mist, but the athletes at least will get a pretty good view because you don't have long sight lines on the track. And Mika, the start, as you said, is so important here because it, like everywhere else, dictates your speed for the rest of the run.
Yeah, and Linda, she's one of our smaller athletes in the field. I remember speaking to her last year and asking her how much weight she has to put in her sled, and she said around 12 kilos. So we know that the Monobobs are all the same, but the girls' weights are different, so they will be weighting them up differently. So I think a respectable start from her, considering she's going to have a little bit of weight in the back of that sled.
Yeah, all the Monobobs are built by a company called Ixent in Bavaria, so they're all identical. You can use different runners. The runners are the same as a normal two-seater sled that the men or the women would use. So there is a variety of runners. And as you say, the lighter you are, the more weight you put in the sled. That's so you get up to the maximum weight for best acceleration. Well, at the line, a 56.85. Now,
I mean, we're going to have to see how the rest of the sleds come down. I think Linda's first off the top, so she sort of has the fresh ice. We saw there's a little bit of sleet coming down, but I mean, the track looks in good condition, doesn't it? Yeah,
track's been pretty decent. I mean, it's still early in the season, hasn't had a lot of use and a lot of reshaping. You can see there's a few little irregularities there in the wall. She managed to hit a bit that sticks out. That's just, them's the brakes. A week ago, we were taking 66 seconds to get down, not 56 seconds. So that's how much shorter a track we have here in Innsbruck. Garda Andreuti, 28-year-old Italian, next up. Her second World Cup race as well. Made her debut in the World Cup last weekend in Monobob, although she did race mono in the Winter Games and in the World Championships. Well, you can see already big variety in starts. 6:19 for Linda Wyszewski, 6:68 for Garda Andreuti.
Yeah, for Giada, we're not going to see the start times that we would necessarily see from the other athletes, but, you know, she's really good at driving it down the track. I think I always get this picture in my head of the excellent shot of her in Altenburg where she was upside down in her sled, and that always comes into my head, which is an awful image, but...
Decent speed, a little quicker than we saw from the Polish sled, but she's second behind at the moment, narrowing the gap a fraction. And so much of this, Mika, when you're starting out in a new discipline, whether it's in a new sport or in this case in the monobobs, it's not about where you are compared to the very top of the tree, the very most experienced. It's where you are compared to where you started, because that's your only metric really, is judging your own progress. So Garda Andreuti, 9200ths back off a 57.77. Again, that would have been shatteringly fast a week ago in La Plagne. And a replay here. This is the exit of 9 coming down the hill to 10, or over the brow and down the hill to 10, and skids there just end up costing you time.
Yeah, that's one of our slightly more difficult corners that we want to come out clean from, because it's the bottom of the track. You want to carry the speed through the next few corners, so should be a bit disappointed with that.
Next up, Katy Bile, the Austrian, again making her World Cup monobob debut. Many World Cup women's bobsleigh races under her belt. She was the Women's Bob World Cup champion in 2020-21. 14th in the Winter Games, 8th in the World Champs. And this is her World Cup mono debut here at home. 6:17, so a quicker start than we've seen from the 2 previous sliders.
And we saw Katy run that a little bit further. You saw when she got in, she was just coming out the grooves, but managed to get her hands on the deer ends there. This is obviously her home track, so, you know, she knows this track like the back of her hand.
Starting to rebuild her team. Jennifer Onosanya, her long-time brakewoman, who started off in the Netherlands, now a Dutch citizen, in fact, in the, I beg pardon, in an Austrian citizen in the Austrian army, but she's also expecting a baby, so not competing this year. 92.4 best speed from Katy Bile with a slender lead over Linda Wyszewski. Across the finish line, 1500s up, 56.70. Well, that looked like a tidier run. I wonder whether she just clipped the wall right at the start. As you said, she ran it quite long.
Yeah, I think it was a nicer run. I think when we look back at some of the slow-mos, we might see a little bit of the back of the sled skidding out on some of the corners. This is typical of the mono. I like to describe it as a rodeo on the way down, because you feel like you're trying to control this crazy horse. But I mean, I don't even know how many times Katy will have slid this track.
Yeah, probably more times before we ever knew her name than most people have had in their careers. So Katy Bile leads after the first 3 of our 19 sleds, which means that anybody that safely completes the first heat will automatically go through into heat 2. Lisa Buchwitz, the winner here last year. Well, as I say last year, last season, it was actually in February. And that's her only World Cup monobob win so far. Now, a former brakewoman, you saw real brakewoman style there with the reverse grip on the handles, leaning back, dropping into the sled. 5.90, that's the sort of starting that we expect to see from Lisa Buchwitz.
Yeah, exactly that. And like you said, we can see her brakewoman prowess coming through on the start there. You see different types of start in the monobob. You can see a trolley push, but you can also see when women have come from being a brakewoman. And And like we've said, numerous times, this is a track where you want to have that good start because it will reflect in your finish time.
And the deal with the start is, if you can imagine throwing a football or kicking a football, the harder you kick it, the further it goes. And if somebody is throwing it less hard, it doesn't go as far. And that's the deal with the sled. You're throwing it off the top. And the faster it is when you get in, the better it's going to accelerate. And your job then is not to try and stop it. 8,700s up. That's a pretty clean-looking run from what we could see of Lisa Buckpitz. So 1 gold medal in her career came on this track in the Monobob. She likes that.
Yeah, she's very happy with that, isn't she? You know when it's a good run down. You can feel the injection of speed, especially out of 10. You can feel that injection of speed before you go through the final labyrinth corners.
Yeah, the lower labyrinth, that's one of those really tricky series of corners where if you get it right, it's great. If you get it wrong, it's horrid. That's not too bad, just a little early on.
Yeah, these bottom corners, you want to get that height, but you still want to get it off the corner because 12, 13 will come quickly at you.
You can see how light the sled is. It's picking runners up down in the lower labyrinth. Next up, Cynthia Appiah, bronze medalist here in February this year, 33 years of age. One of her 4 bronze medals last season came here. And actually, she is our equal most experienced World Cup monobob slider. She did all the races last year, so this is her 10th World Cup start. She, Lauren Alter and Kim Kalicki are the only 3 in the field who have done that. In and down, 5:76 is the start record. 6:01. Now, again, last week, I haven't had a chance to talk to her actually. Last week, I was a little surprised she was off the absolute front at running push pace. Maybe she's focusing a little more on getting in, getting settled, and the drive.
Yeah, I think it's finding that happy medium between coming from being a brick woman and thinking, I need to run this so hard, I need to run it far, I need to get start time, and then realising that now you're becoming a pilot, actually you've got another job to do after that. But I saw Cynthia's post last week. She said she was ready to have another go at it this week, and I mean, this doesn't look like a bad drive. I just don't think we're seeing, 6 ticks off what we saw from Buckwitz there, but...
Yeah. She hasn't got the rocket sled start, and as you say, 6/10 away, 6,700s down at the bottom. There's Lyndon Rush, the coach, 56.50. Well, if there's a medal in that, she's going to have a fairly epic second heat, I think. I should still see her in the top 10 at the end of the first heat, but when you're 6/10 back from anybody, it's unlikely to be a medal position. Here we go, right at the top of the track, trying to keep the speed on board. Any touch on the wall is going to really suck speed out when you've got so little to spare.
Yeah, a little shake of the head at the bottom as well from Cynthia there, so...
Lisa Buckwitz leads after our first 5 sleds. Margot Bock of France started the World Cup season on home ice last week. And she finished in 8th place. This is only her 2nd World Cup start. She did do a number of races in the Europe Cup and in the Women's Bobsleigh World Series. 11th in the Olympic Games, 13th in the World Championships in Mono as well. 6:26.
Yeah, Margot's one of the athletes that I always look up to Margot. I think she's a fantastic athlete, fantastic pilot. And what I did notice through the summer is that she actually went and put her own sled on the push track, so going above and beyond to replicate what you're going to have on the ice, so that when it comes to it, it's natural.
Yeah, normally you use a little wheeled frame, which looks about as much like an actual bobsleigh as a pencil does, but it's having the real sled there brings in all sorts of dramas, like getting your feet over the edge of the cowl and everything else. She has won here in the Monobob World Series, so she does know how to get down this track. And again, another couple, oh dear, couple of years experience will help that. 56.72, Bruno Michon there on the left-hand side of your shot, Max Robert on the right. And Solitude helping out at the bottom. The second of her break women. So Margot Bock coming down in 4th place.
Exit of 9, a really nice exit of 9 there.
Yeah.
Leading her straight into 10.
A little body lean there, just a little bit against the cowl, just to nudge the sled. These things are relatively light and skittish, but they're right by the finish line. Bam, into the wall. It's a pretty sketchy finish area. You can see that the sleds here are literally in a tunnel because there's a ski piste over the top, the Pachakoffel barn, and so the finish area goes through the mountain, but it is pretty difficult. The brakes on the Monobob, the handles are in front of the D-rings that the drivers use for sliding, so you can't steer and brake as you would do in a 2-seat or 4-seat sled. Next up, Bianca Ribby from Canada. 8th World Cup start for her. Winner in Whistler last year in the Monobob to start the World Cup. First ever Monobob World Cup gold medalist. 6:21, that's a decent start as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad start at all. I was just having a look there, coming out the groups. You can see a little bit of snow settling. I don't know whether the mist up there is causing a little bit of something to happen to the top of the track, but yeah, it just looked a little bit grainy out of the grooves.
Yeah, there is the tiniest few flakes of snow coming down, but you wouldn't really call it a white Christmas if you were anywhere other than here. Not a bad exit out of the Kreisel. A 270-degree turn. 3rd best speed so far. This is a good-looking run for Bianca Ribby. Teammate Cynthia Appiah is 2nd, 67 hundredths back. She is not on target to be ahead of Sin, but should be 3rd at the bottom. Again, rattles the wall, brings it down pretty early, 56.67. So 500s ahead of Margot Bock. And 300s ahead of Katy Biles. There's quite a good little battle working up there.
Yeah, I think we will see a little pocket of people at in the race order that are battling it out for some positions when we come to Heat 2.
Yeah, should be quite a lot of variation. Great shot in the Kreisel. Not a bad-looking exit either.
No, it did look like a nice run. I think by corner 9, I thought she would have been a little bit closer to Sin, but maybe there was a bit too much control around the corners.
Next up, Mel Hasler from Switzerland. Silver medal last week, her first Monobob medal. She's had women's bobsleigh medals, but last week, an entirely first-time podium, and she was in the middle of it. Amika, when you're on the back of a good result like that, when you've had a really good week, that just kind of gives you all sorts of extra confidence.
Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, I don't think I've ever not seen Mel smile, so I would have loved to have been there when she got that medal. I think her smile would have been beaming. But
well, they were going insane because not only because they were on the podium, but also they weren't the last 3 sleds to go. There were others. See, they were in the top 6 or 7, and so they were hoping for a top 6, you know, a bigger podium result. And then suddenly the last 3 sleds all sort of faltered. So it was getting more and more tense and ridiculous.
And when that's your first race of the season and that's how you're setting up your season, it really does give you that positive mental attitude to go forward. And you know, I think we've seen that. I've been watching her on social media. She's really looking like she's in good shape.
56.40. She's in very good shape. That's a great run. Hit a ramsidle there, and Chris Woolley looking very happy with that. There's Rico Peter down at the bottom, her coach, her driving coach. Ooh, shaking her head, not so happy with that. Maybe with the braking stretch, it's not the most comfortable part of the track.
No. I mean, brakemen think it's chaotic, but imagine in a mono sled, like you said earlier, brakes between your legs, hands on the D-rings. What do you do? Going around a braking corner.
Yeah. Steer or brake. It's either or. And you get, visor has missed it up.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's when you pull it down, you keep your thumb on the inside to leave that little air gap. And that she may not have done. Next up, we're halfway through our run. This is Australia's Brianna Walker. Last race here, World Cup silver medal for her. She's had 22 podium finishes in women's monobob, 12 wins. The great Pierre Luder's behind, coaching her. So she took a silver here last year. 6:08, that's a decent start, same as Mel Hasler. So this is going to be good for comparison.
Yeah, Bree's a right little pocket rocket, isn't she? And like you said, she's working with Pierre Luders now. I think she's created that environment that she needs to excel. It's really nice to see.
Well, there's nothing he doesn't know about driving sleds. Of course, he's learning monobob like everybody else, but he's got that knowledge that of all the tracks, and their working relationship, like you say, they're both having a lot of fun, and that makes it so important. Second best speed. This is the second fastest run at the moment.
Yeah, this is a really good run. Exit Kreisel, exit 9, those places where you need it to be clean. It's been clean so far.
Really nice looking run from Brianna Walker, already across the line, just 16 hundredths back. Nice, there you go. When you get a big smile from Pierre Luders, you know you are doing well. Every chance that she could be in the medals here again this weekend.
I think what they're also seeing is a little bit of mist on the outside of their visors. I think the weather is causing that
a little.
to happen.
Well, we are in the cloud. And who's helping down at the bottom there, Mika?
Oh, I didn't see.
You didn't see?
Oh no.
Misha McNeil. Former British driver. And of course, you're not used to seeing her from the front. You're only used to seeing the back of her head when you get in the sled. Yeah, so Misha is helping out this weekend.
Well, yeah, Bree and Misha have a fantastic friendship, and I know that Misha's set up a management company that is actually currently managing Bree, so that's
all right, there we go. So next up, our world champion, Lara Nolte, finished tied for 5th place here a year ago. Let's see what she's got this year. 2 wins, 2 silver medals in her 9 previous monobob starts. Took her a while to really get her head around these sleds, but now she has. She could be a threat everywhere.
Yeah, I think that Lara is always going to be a threat. I think her start times aren't, are up there, but it's the drive, isn't it? She's almost
got good hands. She does. Nice looking exits right down the middle of the track, and that's good because it avoids the tiny little flurries of snow that are there on the edge. Nice out of the Kreisel, 2700s back. This is 2nd place. Battle with Brianna Walker at the moment. Lisa Buchwitz still the fastest sled. She's bringing it back. Challenging Brianna Walker for 2nd at the line. She's 300ths up, 100th up, in fact, ahead of Brianna Walker. 55.98 to 55.99 for Bree. So 3 sub-56 second runs at the moment is your top 3. And as always with the pink highlights, pink gaffer tape must be in short supply everywhere else in Germany.
It's just pink power, isn't it? I think there's something about it that just gives you that power.
Yeah, she just likes the colour, and even the sponsors' logos, they've agreed to go with a pink rather than red background on some of them. So, and why not? When you got the world champion who's repping for you, why not? Lisa Buchwitz, Lara Nolte, Brianna Walker, the top 3, then a gap back to the battle for the best of the rest. 10 slows down in Innsbruck, 9 to go, and we get to our first time winner, Keisha Love. Her first ever Women's Monobob World Cup race last week. She claimed the gold medal. 4 monobob races from November 2022 before she raced in La Plagne. That's how new she is, and she's also been learning to drive women's bobsleigh.
Yeah, Keisha is just, oh wow, look at that start.
Wow.
It's so inspiring to see from a brakewoman coming to a pilot. She's clearly spent the time on the track in Placid, learning the corners, and then come over to Europe, and she's just killing it, isn't she? She's doing fantastically.
And she learned to drive while also being the brakewoman for Kaylee Humphries in the World Cup last year and winning races. So she started after the Olympic Games in Beijing 2022 and has done, I think, a total of 8 certified races before she got to the World Cup. So really in the foothills of her career, just dropping out of the lead. Right now, only Lisa Buchwitz quicker. Again, Keisha Love, this is just a sensational first trip down Innsbruck. 4th at the line, 3500s back, 56.18. Rocking and rolling a little bit below corner 9, but the top half of the track, where it was quiet, where you've got to keep the speed, she did a really good job.
Yeah, I think the bottom of the track can take you by surprise sometimes because of how much quicker than the top of the track it is. It really picks up speed. So when you get to 11, 12, 13, you've got to be on it. But no, like you said, the top of the track was beautifully done.
Little high and late on the exit here. There you get the flop, and as the sled crunches down, it takes energy out that otherwise would be driving it forward. So all of those little late exits just slow you down a bit. But hey, top 4 after her first run, has never raced here before, so she's had her training runs. 6 of them in women's bob and monobob. Still snowing just a tiny bit at the start as we get to Romania's Anja Greco. Her 7th World Cup monobob start, bronze medalist last week. This time last year, or on this track last season, i.e. in February, she finished in 10th place. Let's see what she's got for us today. Can't get in. Luckily, there's a good, gentle run down into turn 1. If that had been last week, that would have been a catastrophe.
She really salvaged that. I think she managed to get one hand on both steerings just to hold it straight.
But that's quick thinking.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think when you're one of the, she's one of the bigger, taller athletes in the field, slotting into that monobob is really difficult. You've got a small fraction of time to do it, and you've got to nail it each time.
Steering wheels would be so much easier, like they used to have in the very early days, because you can drive with one hand then if you have to. But when you're doing it like an old-fashioned soapbox cart with one handle to pull to go right and one to go left, it is like driving a tank. You do need both hands. Here we go, 7900s back, 7th place. So ahead of Bianca Ribby, Katy Bile and Margot Bock, ahead of Linda Wyszewski and Chiara Andreuti. So she's just about halfway down the field at the moment. How far behind Cynthia Appia? All right, a couple of tenths. Yeah, nearly. 1200s. Not quite. Yeah, so she gets her feet caught up and still can't get her feet all the way through into the sled. Look at the way it's meandering out of the drive lines. That is great presence of mind. You could see her left hand reaching in under. You're exactly right, Mika. That's what she was doing, holding the steering straight.
You've got to think, when you need your plan B, what comes into place.
Who thinks of that? That's good stuff. Alana Myers-Taylor next up, our Olympic silver medalist in women's monobob, behind the champion Kaylee Humphries. And Alana, only her 2nd Monobob World Cup race. Didn't compete last year in her first year of Monobob World Cup. 6-2-0 has both her kids with her on tour. So she is being a full-time mum and a full-time athlete, and that cannot be easy.
No, not at all. But I did see Alana's post last week, and it said something along the lines of, "Imagine what I can do when I'm fit," and that is sort of the thing that we
Yeah.
want to hear from Alana. She's still got that fight in her. She's, yeah, there's no giving up there. I think it's fantastic to see that there's a mum on tour as well, because for other girls, that is so inspiring to know that you can see it, you can do it. There's a lot of talk in sport at the moment around women having babies, continuing their career, and Alana's doing it and showing that it can be done.
Yep. And in her footsteps, you sort of feel Kelly Humphries will probably follow. She's due to give birth early next year, and who knows, she might be back for next season. 56.59, 10th best start, 7th at the bottom. And yeah, I'm not sure how many months postpartum she is, but certainly she's not with the strength that she would have had a couple of seasons ago, Alana, at the start. But her driving abilities, again, didn't drive a sled for an entire year and a bit. So, you know, that rustiness definitely has gone away. And La Plan, she was on form. She is here as well. Run 2. Well, this place, because everybody knows it so well, it is so critical to be absolutely precise, and that's the real trouble here, is the tiniest margin really seems enormous. Now, next up, Yingqing of China. Yingqing finished tied for 5th place here last year with Lara Nolte. If she can match Nolte now, that will be the 2nd fastest run of the competition. So let's see what she's got. Her only World Cup monobob medal was a week before this race last year when we were in Sigulda in Latvia. Well, neither of the two Chinese sliders had a great time in France, a new track to them. Yingqing was only 11th. She does know this place better. Again, you can see how laid back in the sled she is. You want to try and get the most weight, which is the athlete, as far back as you can over the rear runners to stop it skidding.
Yeah, as we said earlier, these monobobs are a little bit like a rodeo, so if you could sit that weight further back, it gives you a bit more stability.
And in that respect, the taller the athlete, the better it is, because you've got longer legs, so you can put the seat back further back, and then you can lean further back, and more of your weight is back as well. We started to see that when these sleds first came out in the World Series a couple of years ago. Instead of being right up by the cowl, which is how you drive a 2-seater sled, gradually athletes got further and further and further back. 57.13. And again, Mika, if you compare how the sleds look on the track now to how they were 2 years ago when we first saw them, they were skating all over the place. The engineers, the coaches, the drivers really understand a lot more about how to get the best out of them.
Yeah, I think, you know, even I've known of some coaches to go down in the mono so that they know what the girls are experiencing, and to then, you know, feed back to the athletes and say, right, we understand what you're talking about now. This is a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much weighted on the front. A lot of the weight is on the front runners, which mean the back can have a bit of a mind of its own. 15th of our 19 starters in the first heat, race 2 in the Monobob World Cup for 2023-24. This is Germany's Kim Kalicki. 8th place here last year, only 12th, a little bit disappointed with her performance in the season opener in La Plan last week. Kalicki with a bronze medal in Winterberg in January of this year, the end of last season, and that is where we go for the world champs, so she'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, probably not the start that she would have wanted there. 6:43. I mean, are we seeing the effects of the snow at the top of the track? Quite possibly.
She, again, like Lara Nolte, not among the stronger starters, but boy, they can drive. When they arrived in women's bob, they just barely ever finished a race without being in the medals. And that's one thing, you know, when you're a German slider, but to consistently do it. 14th best start, only 14th at the moment. So behind Yingqing of China. And you said it right at the beginning, Amika, that so much of your performance here is dictated by the start. It's a short track. You know, if you imagine this as a 100-meter sprint, if you're quick out of the blocks, you've got half a step on anybody. And if you're not quick out of the blocks, there's not much time to catch up. So Kim Kalicki, 14th at the start, 14th at the bottom, out of 15 sleds. Not what she'd have been hoping for.
Nice bit of control out of 9 there, just drifts back across into 10. But like we said, she's a fantastic driver. But fortunately, this track isn't quite long enough for when you haven't got the start at the top to make it up by the bottom.
Yeah, that is not the face of a happy camper. She'll be very happy to get back into the 2-seat sled. Lisa Bukvich, Lara Nolter and Brianna Walker are top 3 with 4 sleds still to go. Quick out of the blocks, Wai Ming Ming. You can tell that the coaches think that the snow may be a little more of a factor. She goes away immediately. 9th place here last year, 6:27 the start. And again, that's kind of middle to the tail of the top 15, only the 13th best start.
And like you said, this team actually spent quite a bit of time here last year. So they'll have the knowledge of the track, not like last week where it was a brand new track to Team China. So we can see a little bit of confidence from that. But yeah, you know, just drifting backwards on the time splits there and on the speed especially.
Yeah, well, her battle here will be with teammate Yin Qing, and at the moment she is just in front. Don't think there's going to be a lot in it though. And in fact, at the moment, I think she's dropping behind her teammate. She might even drop behind Kim Kalicki at this rate. She's tied with Kim Kalicki, so 57.42, same time exactly as Kalicki. Now, if she could do that in the women's bobsleigh, she might well be among the medals, but not so here. So we have a tie for 14th place. If you're wondering what the hole in the track is there, that's the expansion joint, because the track is basically enormous slabs of concrete, and in the summer they heat up and they expand, so there's a gap between them, and where it's rained over the last couple of days, that expansion joint, which should be full of ice, has sort of sunk. 3 to go, Victoria Chernanska from Slovakia. Tied for 12th place here last year, competed already in the Winter Games and in the World Champs in St. Moritz in February of this year. It's only her 4th Monobob World Cup start. She didn't race in La Plagne a week ago. Victoria just 21, so still with a potential long career in front of her. It's not going to be the fastest start, and she hits the wall. And again, just trying to run as much as she can to try and get speed into the sled. See how far back again she's sitting. That overhead shot really looks like you're sort of driving from the back seat almost.
Yeah, what a shame at the start there. I thought she perfectly timed it getting in, but I just don't think she got her hands on the D-rings. I think with the snow, you actually can't see where the groove ran out. So that's a real shame for her, because I really liked watching her progression. I think she's doing a really good job of putting herself in good position. She's gone onto the NAC, she's tried different tracks, a little bit of a skid there out of 9 into 10. But no, it's you know, she's a young athlete, she's got a long career ahead of her.
Well, she was starting to pick up speed, was 14th fastest, looked like she was closing in on Wai Ming Ming and Kim Kalicki, but that hit at the start, it's effectively basically halved the speed that she would have had from the push, and probably more. So 58.04 at the moment, she's at the tail of the field. And the first real start mishap we've seen. Victoria Chernanska gets in, does not have her hands on the D-rings, there she does. You saw the big steering correction, but it's sheet ice. It doesn't respond the way a car does.
Pardon?
It's more suggesting to the sled that it will go in a direction rather than, you know, they don't carve runners the way that ice skates do, for instance.
No, it's a bit of damage control. Sometimes it works, sometimes you've just got to take that hit.
Right, two debutantes next up. Adele Nicholl, British shot put champion, 27-year-old former brakewoman. Graham Richardson there at the back helping with her coaching. Women's bobsleigh silver medal with Misha McNeil in Sigulda a couple of seasons ago. 9 Europa Cup monobob races under her belt. And Adele making her World Cup debut in the front seat. Good clean start and a 6:25 getaway. That is the 12th fastest start in a competition.
Yeah, give yourself a good start at the top. You can see the Welsh flag on the sled there, and I think everyone will be wondering, obviously Adele comes from Wales. She trains in the same training venue as me, which is quite nice, and it's quite nice to think that probably a bit of paving the way for Welsh girls for me. You'll see featuring in the two women as well, Kaya Placide. So there's a couple of girls that come from Cardiff. Maybe we need to make a Welsh team, Martin.
Might be the time. Got a football club sponsor because the owner of the team, Mike Harris, is sponsoring her personally as well. This is a good-looking run. 12th at the top, 14th on the splits. Is she going to be ahead of Kim Kalicki and Wai Ming Ming? She is. She is ahead of Kim Kalicki and Wai Ming Ming. That's the way to go. And again,
a nice run.
In your first races, you're always looking at the top of the timesheets. Don't do that. Look at where you've come from, not where you want to be. That's how you judge your progress. Those are the metrics. So the new Saints have a new World Cup driver. So good start and nice smooth run from Adele Nicholl. Second year on ice in the front seat. Very excited, and rightly so.
We spent a nice little training camp here last year as well, which clearly shows, because you get the confidence. Like, that's nice exit 9 there, sitting nice and low.
And our final slider is another rookie, 24-year-old Julia Slupeka from Poland. 23 monobob races in the World Series and Europe Cup. So with considerably more sliding experience than Adele Nicholl of Wales, who we've just seen. Let's see what Julia can produce. First off was her teammate Linda Wyszewski. And last off, so Poland surrounding the field at the moment, 6:64. So her target, her teammate in 12th place. Linda is kind of a season or two ahead of Julia in terms of experience, but this is a nice looking run so far.
Yeah, it is a nice looking run. Like we said, it's a bit of a shorter track, so more difficult to drive your way down if you haven't got the start. But
just didn't trust the line coming out of the Kreisel, brought it down a whisker early. And that will have rattled her eyeballs as well as knocked her confidence.
Yeah, that's the first sort of bit of chaos we've seen out of Kreisel so far, which is a shame. It was a nice run up until that point, and I think then she was still trying to get back on track out of exit 9 as well. 58.18 is the time for Julia Slupeka, so she ends up in 19th spot. Victoria Czelanska in 18th, Giada Andreuti in 17th. So our rookies, well, Austria's Katy Bile, perhaps unsurprisingly, is the best of them in 10th place. Adele Nicholl 14th and Julia Slupeka in 19th spot. A long drift there, just held the nose a little too long. And here in the Kreisel, I mean, it's a long corner, double pressure, Mika, and she just starts to drive it down, what, a couple of hundredths too early, and suddenly, look at that, just the tiniest of touches. Yeah, I mean, we've had a little bit of a cheat code at Eagles in the previous years. There was a blue dotted line around Kreisel that you could follow and it would guide you off, and without that there, it makes it a little bit more tricky for the pilot.
Well, famously in Altenburg, Harold Chudai tied a red rag to the top of the woodwork in Kreisel so he'd know where to leave it, and that is still the sign. Maybe somebody needs to tie a rag to the top of the Kreisel here in Innsbruck. Lisa Buchwitz doesn't need that. Great start from the German slider, and she is our first heat leader. She's got one medal of each colour from last season. Let's see if she can add another one here. Don't forget, the top 3 last week didn't end up on the podium. This is still a little bit of a slippery deck of cards. Lisa Buchwitz, Lauren Alton, Bree Walker have a big advantage over Keisha Love, who's sort of on her own in 4th. Then Mel Hasler, Cynthia Appia, Alana Myers-Taylor, Andrea Grecu, Bianca Ribby, and so on. That's a really tight little battle down to Margot Bock. And then Linda Wyszewski ahead of Ying Qing. Adele Nichols got plenty to go for. She could easily overhaul Ying Qing, and she's got to make sure that Wai Ming Ming and Kim Kilicki don't catch her. But those first run nerves from Adele Nicol and Julius Lupeka, I'm sure, have evaporated. Time to go out and enjoy the second heat. And that comes up at, I didn't write it down, what are we talking? 10 o'clock, thank you very much indeed. So we'll be back at 10 Central European, 0900 GMT, and that, I'm afraid to say, is still 0400 Eastern. Wherever you are, join us then. Till then, from Mika Moore, from me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew here in Innsbruck, it's bye for now.